Heat and hot water are back on at St. Joseph's Health Centre tonight after a boiler system failure forced the Toronto hospital to be without either for hours on one of the coldest days of the year. Dale Manukduk takes us through the day.
Unity Health put out a statement at 7:30 this morning alerting of an emergency code situation. There was a unexpected boiler system failure resulting in no heat, no hot water, no steam throughout the building. Not what you want, as you mentioned, on one of the coldest days. And it also meant that St. Joe's could not provide full service in the emergency department. So the advice was to not come to emerge unless it was a life-threatening situation. There was no restrictions on visitors and never a plan to transfer any patients. We did speak to some people visiting the hospital. They said it was pretty cold inside. People were bundled up. Have a listen.
On the 6th floor, it's still okay. The nurses are doing their normal stuff. No heaters, none of that kind of stuff yet. Anywhere near a door or a window, so yeah, you can feel the draft coming through and there's no heat kind of pushing the draft out.
We brought our own blankets from home extra just in case. We didn't know about the situation here, but it seems to be okay. So now, the patients are getting good care, that's the most important. Nurses and doctors and assistants are all around.
There's a lot of people actually in emergency at this point who do not, they're in the hallway.
Hall room medical.
Yeah.
Stretchers are numbered in the hallway.
So some different experiences there from different wards of the hospital and the emergency department. The advice, Kelda, is still to not come to the emergency unless it's that life-threatening situation. I will note that all non-essential activities were canceled today. That decision was made early this morning. And however, all chemotherapy and dialysis treatments went ahead as scheduled. So if anyone is experiencing a medical emergency, the advice is to go to a different hospital. The reason why they're saying to not come to emerge is because this will be a staged process to get the boilers back online. St. Joe says they expect the boiler system to return to normal operations by the end of the weekend. We'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks so much for that, Dale. Our Dale Manukduk reporting from St. Joseph's Hospital tonight. Federal intervention arrived today in the Canada Post strike. Workers haven't been ordered back on the job yet, but they may be very soon as the strike nears its 5th week. Marina von Stackelberg has the latest.
Canadians are rightly fed up.
Canada's Labour Minister is stepping in to end the 4-week-long Canada Post strike.
Suffice to say that positions appeared to have hardened. It became very clear to me that we were in a total impasse.
Stephen McKinnon will use Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code. It's the same way he's ended nearly every other major labour dispute this year. In this case, he'll ask the Canada Industrial Relations Board to decide if Canada Post and the union are far from reaching a deal. If there's no end in sight, the board will order them back to work.
That could happen as early next week.
In a statement, Canada Post says, "We look forward to welcoming our employees back to work and serving Canadians and customers. We will take all appropriate steps to support that process as quickly as possible."
What they're doing here,
the union says the minister has done exactly what he said he wouldn't do by essentially forcing them back on the job.
it's like a big bucket of water. He's making it so employers can bargain to an impasse and then expect some sort of law or some sort of intervention under 107 to go, hey, you don't have to give the workers anything, I'll take care of that.
In the past, a government wanting to end a strike had to pass back-to-work legislation. This new method skirts that important democratic safeguard.
It was a surprise to many of us when we saw this little-known provision in the Canada Labour Code being used by the minister and used in such a promiscuous fashion to end all of these strikes and lockouts in the federally regulated industries.
It's likely these unions will take the federal government to court for violating their constitutional right to strike. But a judge's decision on that could take more than a year. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
The head of Air Canada testified before a parliamentary committee today, answering questions about the airline's recent decision to charge travelers extra fees for carry-on baggage. The head of the company defended the move, saying it is necessary to remain competitive in the market.
True competition requires companies to respond to market forces. This is exactly what we're doing. We are aligning our lowest fare policies with those already offered by our competitors, WestJet, Porter, and Flair. to be in a better position to compete for price-conscious customers.
Executives from WestJet, Air Transat, and Porter Airlines also testified. In recent years, those airlines have started charging add-on fees that were once included in the cost of a ticket. That includes checked bags, onboard snacks, and Wi-Fi access. Committee members say that is making air travel unaffordable for Canadians. But one of the executives who testified today said air travel is especially expensive in Canada because of government policies and third-party fees. Well, the federal government's GST HST holiday comes into effect tomorrow, with certain goods like groceries, restaurant meals, and children's toys all exempt from taxes. The tax break will last for 2 months, giving Canadians a little relief during the holiday season. But as Michelle Song explains, the temporary legislation is also causing headaches for some businesses.
We would first identify a category.
It's the busiest time of year for Lori Parker's toy store, but even busier now as she is reprogramming her point of sale system, trying to figure out which toys are actually part of the federal government's GST HST tax break.
And we spend a lot of time trying to read the documents from the CRA and interpret what they mean and how they apply to our products.
Starting December 14th, Canadians can buy certain goods without the sales tax for 2 months. Ontarians could save up to 13% on some essential goods like groceries, restaurant meals, children's clothing, and toys. But there are rules surrounding the list of exemptions, rules retailers like Parker are trying to decipher.
There can be very specific items like Pokemon cards that they've stated are included in the exemption. But then other things just are very kind of vague, like children's building sets.
Parker worries there will also be confusion at the register. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business urges customers to be patient with small businesses.
They've had 2 weeks of notice at their busiest time of year to try to put these changes in place. Ottawa hasn't been helping with very little information on a per product basis.
For some restaurants, the transition is much simpler.
I've learned that our third parties are going to manage everything on the back end.
Dawn Chapman says she is optimistic more people will support local restaurants like hers.
Grilled cheese and fries? Usually in January and February, it's the doldrums of the restaurant world. Like, not a lot of people are coming out, they're staying home, they've spent a lot over the holidays. So my hope is that more people will be encouraged to go out and go visit their local restaurants.
The tax holiday could leave more money in Canadians' pockets. But according to the parliamentary budget officer, it will cost Ottawa almost $1.5 billion. And for provinces with HST, it could cost more than $1 billion. Michelle Song, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario has a new emergency management group to deal with natural disasters across the province. Premier Doug Ford announcing today the creation of Ontario Corps.
The tornadoes that hit Ottawa and also outside of Toronto, hurricanes, there's been a lot of natural disasters. And I've noticed one thing when I'm on site. All the community comes together, they go to the community center, people are helping out, but there's no central organization organizing everyone.
The group is made up of professional and volunteer organizations that can deploy between 24 to 72 hours. It's part of a $110 million provincial spend that includes the purchase of flood barriers, drones, and other emergency equipment for the Corps. Anyone over 16 can join. Registration is now open online. CBC Toronto has obtained emails showing TVO was prepared to defend a controversial Russian war documentary that was shown at TIFF, but then a day later reversed its strategy. This information comes from documents obtained through Freedom of Information requests. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redikup has those details.
Russians at War was a controversial film during TIFF. Anti-war, according to the Russian-Canadian director, capturing soldiers' experiences fighting in Ukraine.
Stop this movie! Stop!
But it became the subject of protest, including from Ukrainian Canadians. At the last minute, it was pulled from the festival lineup. The film was supported by TV Ontario and had been set to air later on Ontario's public broadcaster. One day into the festival, TVO in a statement said, "We encourage people to see the documentary for themselves." 3 days later, shown in emails obtained by CBC through a Freedom of Information request, TV Ontario had prepared an issue note defending the film, saying the debate over it is based on factual inaccuracies, portraying it as pro-Russian, which it is not, and that mischaracterizations are primarily being circulated by people who have not seen the film. That email went to the Education Minister's Chief of Staff. The next day, a reversal, a larger email group, including a staffer from the Premier's office, with a message from the TVO board saying it had listened to the Ukrainian community, would no longer be supporting or airing Russians at war, and will review the process by which it was funded. It was all devastating for the filmmaker, who had tried to show Russian soldiers' experiences were so different from what their families were told.
For me, this is in its core an anti-war film, because you cannot have peace without understanding, and you cannot have understanding without seeing each other.
The Education Minister later said the TVO board's decision was the right thing to do. The government saying her ministry plays no role in what airs on TVO and can't due to CRTC licensing requirements. In a response to CBC, TVO says the Ford government played no role in the decision to pull support from the film. The film was in the end screened by TIFF, though after the festival. Miranda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
An Ontario bill that could see misbehaving councillors kicked out of office is sparking a mix of relief and frustration. People in Ottawa have been pushing for this legislation for years, but as Elise Skura reports, they worry the bar for removal may be set too high.
If passed, this bill would improve consistency of ethical standards.
This move is a long time coming. People have fought for new tools to deal with misbehaving councillors. Orleans MPP Stephen Blais tried not once, but twice to get a private member's bill passed, failing both times. And as rumors of a spring election swirl, he sees a similar future for the government's attempt.
The likelihood that this legislation actually gets passed before an election, I think, is very low. And so for me, it seems like it's a political maneuver to try to hold up and say, look, we care about this issue.
Blais was at City Hall when this issue was front and center. Councillors couldn't oust Rick Shirelli from office despite multiple allegations revealed by CBC about sexual harassment of female staffers. Investigations suggesting he told women to go braless. This bill includes a process to remove misbehaving elected officials, but both the municipal and provincial integrity commissioners must recommend it, and there has to be a unanimous vote from council with no unexplained absences.
So I find it really hard to believe that that member would actually be removed in most scenarios. It seems to me that if an ethics commissioner makes a recommendation, that should be considered impartial and that should be acted on.
To come to 100% unanimity, I think, is not just a high bar. I think that bar might be in outer space.
Troster and Blais say this is a good start. The bill standardizes codes of conduct and mandates training, but councillors will be challenged.
These are not skilled adjudicators themselves. They are going to be exercising whatever number of inputs that they usually attach to any council decision. Some of them are political.
People who know victims of misconduct are also concerned about politicizing the process, but they applaud this step forward and say if the bill dies on the order paper, they hope it will be brought back and passed. Elise Skura, CBC News, Ottawa.
Toronto Fire is once again gearing up for their annual toy drive. Mayor Chow putting her full support behind the initiative today.
That would bring magic to thousands and thousands of children and young people this season. I can't wait to see their smile on their face.
The toy drive is run every year through the efforts of volunteers, including both active and retired firefighters. Some of them were also on hand at shops at Don Mills today collecting donations. Time for a short break, but stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Healthcare advocates are calling for more investment in home care. They say expanding the province's home care offerings will help cut down on instances of hallway medicine. Tyler Cheese has more.
It's been really difficult to find enough nurses to do my care.
Those who rely on home care, like Novelette Monroe, say more needs to be invested in the system. She has a skin condition that requires full-body bandages that need to be changed every other day to avoid infection.
I don't have anybody coming in on the weekends at all because there's not enough nurses available.
A staffing shortage is one of the challenges driving Home Care Ontario's push for more government funding. The association says the province needs to fully embrace the home care sector as a solution to hallway medicine.
There's 45,000 people waiting for a bed in long-term care in Ontario right now.
Home Care Ontario has launched a new campaign called Home Not Hallways, calling for an increase in home care hours of 10% a year for the next 3 years.
It's sad to think that that all happened because we didn't put in the home care that they really needed. It's short-sighted, and it isn't good care for people of Ontario.
The yearly increase would mean about 16.5 million hours of additional care for Ontario residents. The association is also calling on the province to grow a larger home care workforce by offering more competitive compensation and providing ongoing training and mentorship programs to retain existing staff.
Home care is a very, very important part of keeping the whole system of healthcare healthy.
And experts from within the healthcare system agree it would make a massive difference, especially as the province experiences a rapidly aging population.
The real challenge we have right now in Ontario is that we just don't simply have enough home care to meet the current demands. Right now, 15% of our hospital beds are occupied by people, many of whom want to go home with home care, but they can't.
In a statement provided to CBC Toronto, the Ministry of Health says the province has already invested $1 billion to expand the delivery of home and community care recently. That's in addition to investments made to increase PSW wages and funding for PSW students. But while Home Care Ontario says it's grateful for those commitments, it's just not enough.
Clearly, we need a new approach. We can't keep doing the same old things and expect a different solution.
She says if changes aren't made, the problem will get worse as the province's senior population has been projected to grow by 650,000 people in the next 5 years. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
A Toronto-based artist has been taking his unique practice into healthcare settings, using recycled and found materials to create mesmerizing mobiles. Now, the latest installation is at West Park Hospital. Talia Ricci takes us there.
There's charcoal from a house fire. These are a lot of rocks that we found in Leslie Spitz.
An eclectic collection of items that are being transformed into a work of art at West Park Hospital, including material from the hospital's prosthetics and orthotics department.
I make mobiles a lot, it's part of my visual language, so we're looking at brass, bronze, wood, a lot of salvage materials, things that I found and collected over the years and sort of hoarded, arranged in a composition that is ultimately hopefully very magical and whimsical and playful, offering people sort of a moment of respite from their daily lives.
It's the third installation artist Dennis Lynn has done in a healthcare setting. His work can also be seen at Sick Kids and Holland Bloorview. Those projects invited the patients to be a part of the process.
We've created patient workshops where we can work with inpatients to sort of inform the mobiles, and so that's been a really wonderful opportunity.
One of the goals here is thinking about public art in a new way. UHN's Director of Art Strategy says public art has always been a part of places like schools and libraries, but hospitals are the perfect canvas too.
Very few of us have not had an experience with hospitals, and it offers a diversion for patients when they're anxious about their care, worried about their outcomes, that it gives them a place to go and contemplate and think differently and maybe escape a little bit from their healthcare experience. In addition, it does the same thing for staff. I mean, hospitals are really high pressurized, intense environments, and it provides that kind of respite for staff and visiting families as well.
I think that's exactly the meaning, is just an opportunity for escape, positive reflection, positive distraction.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
right, Colette, I am excited for tonight. I'm going to try to catch this meteor shower that everyone seems to be talking about. I know there are some obstacles. I know the moon might be a little too bright to fully enjoy it, but hey.
It's a good thing. With the moon is full on the 15th, so we're pretty close to that. That's all. But, you have a plan to get away from the lights of the city. We'll see maybe if the moon has an impact or not. And I know you're not supposed to look at your phone right before you try and look because it affects your eyes. So some tips to get you there. But
Thank you.
I hope it's a good night. You just have to be bundled up because we've certainly got a cold night ahead, at least one more, and then we get into some milder air. And it was chilly last night, showing you where we were. This is just at 7 a.m. at -9. That was our low. But check out Windsor. Yes, the low was -12. And then by 4 p.m., the climb, well, there was a bit of a climb, but still temperatures well into freezing. And, I've been talking about this trough in the jet stream. It's that horseshoe you're seeing kind of from Hudson Bay stretching over towards Labrador. Let's define that a little bit better for you here. So that area, that's where it allowed that Arctic air, that cold air to plunge in. And you can see we're still kind of on the border and under the influence of that. And that's why we have this colder night tonight. But a little to the west is more of a ridge, and that will bring in some milder air. But moisture comes with it as well. So right now, this system is just kind of coming together. If you keep your eyes around Kansas City, they're sort of in the center of your screen, what's going to happen is it acts like a pump with counterclockwise circulation around an area of low pressure as it's developing. It's going to pull that moisture in from the Gulf. It becomes quite juicy there with a lot of moisture to work with. But as it comes towards us, we have a nice day tomorrow. We have sunshine, a good day on the slopes where we've had so much snowfall. And with that sun and the temperature a little milder, it will feel good. But as we go, this is Sunday, midday, we could get some mixing. And then it is after that that we'll likely see rain showers, especially closer to the lakeshore. Northern parts of the GTA may stay more in that kind of wet snow that you get a few centimeters or so. Lighter winds for now, that'll be nice. But then as that system comes in, do know that Saturday night into Sunday, those winds will pick up. -10 tonight for us in Toronto, and just having a look at tomorrow climbing. I'm hoping to -1, getting close, and then we get above, and 3 degrees on Sunday, and then milder Monday still.
Okay, looking pretty good to me next week.
Yeah, it's a real flip-flop. We're used to it.
We're used to it. Thanks so much, Colette. That's all the time we have tonight. Thanks for watching. Have a great night and a great weekend.